Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on Bay Atlantic University MSM Agent E-Summit 2020 Live. Our attendees are on the process of joining the webinar. In the meantime, on behalf of all of us in Bay Atlantic University and MSM, I hope you, your families, and all your colleagues are all safe and well. We are seeing positive signs on the vaccine developments across the globe, and all of humanity is getting accustomed to the new normal as the pandemic is spreading everywhere, sparing no countries. You'll learn more on how Bay Atlantic University has catered to the new normal during these extreme times. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen from all parts of the world. I would like to thank you all for taking time out and being here today with us. My name is Jim George, Manager Global Marketing Office, overseeing US institutions at MSM, and I'll be your moderator for today's webinar. I'm delighted and pleased to introduce today's presenter, Mr. Jaji Dolani. Jaji is the Vice President of Marketing at Bay Atlantic University. A heartily welcome for joining this webinar.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, sure. Before I hand over the mic to Jaji, I will run through the housekeeping requirements that are needed for today's presentation and the Zoom webinar platform. So what's today's agenda for the webinar? Yes, you'll be hearing a comprehensive presentation on Bay Atlantic University by our esteemed panelists. You will learn how, you'll get an insight on how Bay Atlantic University has made the application process easy for international students, the special care and attention that every international student will receive at Bay Atlantic University. And also you'll get further insights on the attractive scholarships, the careers of the future, and the highly demanded programs that Bay Atlantic University has to offer. As a reminder, everyone is currently muted and will encourage you to type in your questions and comments throughout the presentation in the Q&A session present in the control panel. Later on in the presentation, we'll have a brief moment for Q&A, at which point you'll also be encouraged to type in your questions. In case you're facing any technical issues, please feel free to drop in a message in the chat box. You will also be having 2 polling sessions during the webinar, so all our attendees will have to be attentive during this presentation. We'll expect your active participation during these polls. This webinar is recorded and will be posted on our YouTube channel afterwards. For those who have just joined in, welcome to today's webinar on Bay Atlantic University MSM Agent E-Summit 2020 Live. So without further ado, let's start things off by welcoming our esteemed panelists. Jaji, over to you.
Hello and welcome. I'm very glad to be here to be able to share some of the interesting things that we're doing in this campus. One of the areas of focus for us has been to strengthen our relationships with you, our agents, because you are the ones that do all the hard work. You're the ones that get to speak to prospective students on the ground. So the way I look at it is you are our eyes, and we're here to support you with every possible way. So I would love to be able to hear from you. You can use the chat to send some questions. You can send some questions directly to Jim. And then I would like to, after this webinar in the following days, to follow up with you to see how we can work best together and what kind of information we can continue to provide you and what kind of support you would need from us. All right, without further ado, I will start. Jim just went over some of the housekeeping requirements. Let's start. One of the main things that we get asked all the time is, what is a new generation university? And again, this is a very fair question. We spend a lot of time thinking about what type of education we want to provide here in this institution. We are not a non-traditional. When you think of a college here in America, right? When you think of a university in America, you think of a big campus with a lawn. You have to walk from your English building to your math building to your biology building. We felt that that's not necessarily the best way to conduct education, specifically if you're focused on career-oriented education, and if you're focused on education for the future. So what we wanted to do is basically form an integrated community here within campus, and we called it a new generation a new generation institution, new generation university. What that means is everything is here in one building. As you're walking down the hallways, you will run into the president of the university. You'll run into your faculty. You will even be able to run into, people from the community that are leaders in their areas of industry, right? So if I were a freshman or sophomore, a junior or a senior, and looking to advance my career, right, with this education, I would have access to all of these resources as I'm walking down the hallways. So we have divided it into 6 years. And actually, when you look at the logo, there are 6 different spots there, and I'll walk through each one of them from the top, your 12 o'clock and clockwise. That means basically the top one is central. So New Generation University is built on 6 pillars. The first one is being centrally located. I will talk a little bit about, where we are located here in DC, but this is exactly what I mean by central. We're right next to the White House. We're basically the first non-governmental building closest to the White House. And it's right at the heart of Washington, D.C. The second one means focus. The second pillar is we're focused. We're focused on career-oriented education here. So we'll walk you through some of the programs that we have to offer. And when we think of educating our students, we want them to be ready for this new world that's out there. We want them to have skills they can use right away. Connected in the sense that we have very strong connections in the community. We have very strong connections in industry. We have very strong connections in the local and global politics as well. So as a student here, you will have access to all of that. Again, global is the fourth pillar for us. And by that, we are, if you're familiar with Bay Atlantic University, we are actually one of the largest private institutions in the world, private education institutions in the world, headquartered in Istanbul, Turkey, and we have campuses everywhere around the world, from Hong Kong all the way to Vancouver, and DC is our main campus here in the United States. The fifth pillar is affordable. By affordable, we want to make sure that everybody has access to education. The biggest problem, and if you followed politics or if you followed education here in the US, the biggest problem is students graduate with an insane amount of debt. We just feel that that's not the way to prepare our youth for the future. So we've spent a lot of time and a lot of our resources here to make education affordable. We'll walk through the fees, and what you'll notice is that our fees are very, very competitive, not just here in the area, but in the US as well. And then finally, dynamic. Our curriculum reflects the current market trends. We spend a lot of time seeing what's out there. We spend a lot of time talking to industry people and realizing, what are some of the main needs that industries have, and that's what we try to provide with our teaching. All right, let's move on to the next slide. So we are located in Washington, D.C. If you've been to the U.S., Washington, D.C. is one of the most beautiful cities in the country. I've lived here for 5 years, and it's one of the best places in the U.S. That I've lived. But it's also, everybody knows this is the heart of global politics, right? A lot of the decisions that happen around the world get made here, and that's why this is a great place for any student to start their educational and also career. So it's an amazing place both to study and live. In terms of where we are located, if you look at the center, you'll see the White House is basically right. The words for the White House are basically right below our campus. The most amazing thing is that as a student, if you really want to if you want to eat your lunch outside, we share a park with the White House. So you'd be sitting there at the park and just looking at the White House, in front of the White House. So it's an amazing location. We have tons of museums, tons of things to do within walking distance of DC. DC is also very, very walkable. So as an international student, one of the things is you're not going to end up somewhere in middle America surrounded by cornfields, but you are at the heart of city life, at the heart global life in a global community. This is definitely a plus that I think you guys can definitely share with your prospective students. Let's talk a little bit about Bay Atlantic University. The university here in DC was established in 2014. But as an institution, we've been around for over 35 years, right? Bay Atlantic Global is, as I said, is one of the largest educational institutions in the world. Our focus currently is business, technology, and politics. We feel these are the three main drivers of just the world in general, but also in terms of the future and where the future is going from career-wise. Definitely business. We all have seen all the technological advances, and with a changing world, politics and international and global affairs is also becoming a main focus. So these are the three main things we focus on. I'd like to also point out, because I think it's very, very important, that although we are a new university, right? Relatively speaking, a lot of the universities around us have been around for over 150 years. I'm very proud to share with you that we have the second largest MBA class in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. has the highest concentration of higher ed institutions in the country. And for us to be the second largest MBA program after Georgetown, it's something that we're very, very proud of, and also is an indicator of the quality of education and the recognition that Bay Atlantic University has both locally and worldwide. In terms of the degrees that we offer, as you see there, we have 6 bachelor's degrees and 5 master's degrees. Our academics team is constantly busy. They're constantly looking at new opportunities out there, and we're evaluating different degrees and different curriculums that we want to continue offering to stay up with current trends, but also stay ahead of them. So here's a quick overview of the programs. On the bachelor side, we have accounting, economics and finance, business administration, political science and international affairs, data science, and information technology. On the master side, we have masters in business administration with a focus either on entrepreneurship, global affairs, economics, and finance. And on the master side, which is also a big draw from the international student side, is big data analytics and cybersecurity. One thing that I want to focus is we wanted to capitalize on the fact that we are at the heart of global politics. So on the political science and international affairs, we have an in-house non-governmental institution called the Global Policy Institute. They are an independent institute. They're housed here at the university and provide a lot of, share a lot of global research on politics and international affairs. The benefit is that if you are a student in political science and international affairs, you would actually have the opportunity to work directly with our Global Policy Institute. And also they're very active with webinars. They're very active with especially pre-COVID, every week here, we had some of the biggest global affairs leaders from various countries or here in the US that come on campus and actually get to meet the students and share some of the things they're working on, share some of the knowledge. So as a student here, you actually will have direct access to a lot of the thought leaders that work in DC, global thought leaders that work and live in DC. All right, tuition, again, one of the things that I mentioned, it's an important factor of what we do here is we want to make sure that we are affordable. Not only do we want to provide excellent education, we want to make sure that we provide affordable education. So a 4-year bachelor program is $63,000 and a master's program is $36,000 for 2 years. One important factor is that we spend a lot of money on scholarships. International students can apply for our Enver Yücel scholarship, which automatically gives them 50% reduction in tuition, right? So as an international student, your tuition goes from 15,000 for a bachelor's program, from $15,900 to about, roughly $8,000 a year, right? And for a master's, it drops down to $9,000 a year with the 50% Enver Yücel scholarship. Our scholarships are very accessible. I know that when you think of scholarship, you think of 4.0 GPA. To actually apply for them, you don't necessarily need a 4.0. As long as you meet the requirements and you have a GPA above 2.5, you will be eligible to apply for the Enver Yücel scholarship here at Bay Atlantic University. All right. In terms of the cost, this is basically one of the questions that students have all the time. Okay, well, what does my housing cost me? What does the food cost? What does the transportation cost? Right? As a bachelor student, housing is $950 a month. Food is $300. Transportation is $70. On the transportation side, we also have a bus that transports students from the dorms, which we have here, which are our dorms, to campus. Also on the housing side, I think one thing that's not mentioned here that's important to mention is if students come referred by you, their housing actually decreases by 50%. Okay? So when you refer students here and they say, we were referred by MSM, that reduces their housing from $950 to roughly about, $450 or whatever, $475 a month. Which I think it's a great perk, right? So as international students, not only do they get 50%, they can apply, they're eligible to get 50% off tuition, but automatically when they come referred by you, they get half off of housing cost. And I don't know if you've ever been to DC or if you've lived in DC, it's one of the 3 most expensive cities to live, in terms of housing in the country. And for a student to be able to get housing here for $475 a month, it's just an outstanding cost of living expense. It's a great reduction in housing. As a master's student, again, your 2 years is different. Your cost is different than a bachelor student, but housing doesn't change. And again, as a master's student, you also get 50% off housing if you come referred to by MSM. I'm going to give the floor to Jim now to cover some of the polls.
Yeah, so it's poll time. So let's look into what are the poll questions. I hope you must have gone through the initial slides that were presented. So I'm just launching the polls. I hope all of you are able to see the polls now. Yeah, so the first question is, in which year was Bay Atlantic University established? So it was mentioned as a new generation university. So I'd request all the attendees to type in the right answer. I hope all of you are able to see the polling, because it shows in my screen that it's in progress. Yeah, so I see a few have started voting. The second question is, how many undergraduate programs does Bay Atlantic University offer? So was it mentioned 3 programs, or was it mentioned 5 programs? Was it mentioned 6 programs, or was it mentioned 10 programs? And the final question is, how much is the yearly tuition fee for an undergraduate program in BAU? Undergraduate equivalent to the bachelor degree programs. So it is, was it $15,900 or was it $17,400? Or was it mentioned that it was $20,950? Or was it mentioned $22,250? So I'll just wait. We've got about 25% of them who have just voted. So I would request the others also to participate. So this is just an interactive session so that you get a clearer picture on about the basic requirements that the university has to offer. So I'll just wait for another 5 seconds and I'll get back to you. Yeah, so I'm closing the votes. Yes, so I hope you are able to view the results. I've just shared the results. So we can see that nearly 71% of them have given the right answer that Bay Atlantic University was established in the year 2014. We see that 65% of them have given the right answer on how many undergraduate programs does Bay Atlantic University offer. So that's 6 programs. We've got 65% of them giving the right answer. And also we've got 82% of them who have given the right answer on how much is the yearly tuition fee for the undergraduate program in Bay Atlantic University. So thank you so much for your time for this interactive session on the pollings, and it's over. Back to you for taking the presentation.
All right, thank you. Let me just close this. Okay. All right. So what are the steps? The steps to apply is, for the admissions process as an undergraduate, is you fill out the application form. You have the link right there. You have to have a GPA of 2.5 or higher, a copy of the high school transcript, a copy of the government issued ID. And then in terms of the scores is IELTS is 5.5, Duolingo 75, TOEFL 70, and TOEIC is 650. We also require 2 letters of recommendation and a personal essay that is required to be submitted. We do not require SAT exams. If you have it, it's great. And it also kind of helps verify the type of scholarship that you can be awarded, but you don't necessarily need it at all. In terms of graduate admission, we need an application form. We need a 3.0 GPA, bachelor's diploma. We need a government issue ID, and then your scores are a little bit higher in terms of your English proficiency, because obviously the requirements, and the level of work is a little bit higher. We need 2 letters of recommendation, and we also need a personal essay. GMAT or GRE are not required. Again, having them helps with the scholarship, but they are definitely not required to be admitted or to apply for a scholarship. In terms of the scholarship, so how much as an undergraduate student, right? How much, what are the scores that you need to have, and how much is your eligibility? So if you have an SAT score of 1,000, an SAT score of 1,000, you have about 25%, you're eligible for 25% scholarship, basically tuition reduction. If you have 1,300, you're eligible for 100% scholarship reduction. If you have a GMAT of 725, that automatically qualifies you for 100% scholarship. And then if you have a GRE of 165, again, 100% scholarship. We also, like I said, we also have the Hussein UCHEG scholarship, which is up to 50%. In order to apply for the scholarship and to be kind of accepted is scholarship essay. You need to have the grade point average of over 2.5. You have to have leadership, or you have to show leadership or service experience, and that definitely comes across in your personal essay and also in your recommendation letters. And we definitely need letters of recommendation, so that you can take advantage of the scholarship. In terms of English proficiency, you can see we have actually on the bachelor side, we've reduced some of the requirements because we wanted to stay in tune with all the other institutions here. On the graduate side, they're a little bit higher, but it's understandable because the level of education or the level of course load is much more demanding. If your English, if as a student you have English proficiency is an issue that you need to work on, we actually have our sister college here, Mentora College, which is housed in the same building as Bay Atlantic University. So what students can do is they can start taking English classes directly at Mentora College. And then once they get to the level of proficiency that's needed, then they automatically get transferred to Bay Atlantic University. Um, the benefit of Mentora College being a separate entity is that you can start taking English classes without having to be admitted at the university, right? So if in order to be admitted, you have to have a certain level of English requirement, you don't have to start an application process here. You can start taking classes, and actually you can take those classes directly from home, whether you are, somewhere in Africa, Latin America, or Asia, or somewhere in Europe. You can take your English classes directly from home at Mentora College online. And then once you get to the required level of English, then you can apply directly to Bay Atlantic University. In terms of application deadlines, our spring intake is December 1st. Our fall intake is August 1st. So we have traditional semesters here, basically September through December, and then January through May. In terms of the procedures for admission, once you fill out the application, each student has to submit the required documents. This is very, very important. One of the issues that we run a lot into here during our admissions process is we get a lot of students to fill out an application. We get a lot of students to, actually pay the application fee, but then they fail to submit the bank statement, or they fail to submit their transcripts. And it's really, really important for us to have all of the documentation handy. What I would request, especially with agents, is please make sure that when your student fills out an application, he's already shown you or submitted all the necessary documentation that's required, because that helps speed up the process. One of the things about this university is we are very, very flexible and very, very quick to turn around, right? So even though we say, and I'll go back to that slide, with the spring intake meaning December 1st and fall intake meaning August 1st, if say it's August 5th, and you have a student that wants to participate, wants to get admitted in, we will work with you to make sure that student makes it in, right? But they have to have all the documentations ready, because if we have to wait on a statement of some sort, or if we have to wait on some documentation of some sort, that really makes it really hard for us to turn around and provide you guys with an I-20 quickly. Once all the documentation is ready, we will provide you with an I-20, and then, once you take that I-20 to the U.S. consulate, you'll be able to get your F1 visa if you are approved. We have very strong relationships with a lot of embassies and a lot of countries, so our students have a good rate of having their F1 visa granted. And then once everything is good, then we'll actually send them an acceptance letter to attend Bay Atlantic University. So let's talk a little bit about DC, because again, as a student, you'll come here, you'll spend a lot of time in the city, and as I said, this is a beautiful city. This is actually one of the 5 best young cities, young professional cities in America. One of the most interesting things about DC is that people that graduate with a bachelor's degree and work in DC have a salary double the national average, right? So if you start work here, let's say with $50,000 a year, you're double what the national average is, which is about $27,000 a year for somebody who graduates with a bachelor's degree, just because there's a lot of demand here for educated students with college degrees, and also there's a lot of job availabilities. The U.S. government is one of the largest employers in the world, if not just in America. So there's tons of opportunities here. It's one of the it's number 19 best place to live in America. If you ask me, I think this is probably the best place, but these numbers are averages, right? It's a very, very diverse city. DC by itself is very small, but the surrounding areas around DC, there's some towns in Virginia and Maryland, meaning like 6-7 kilometers away from the center of the city, that are very very multi-ethnic. So multi-ethnic in terms of cuisine, multi-ethnic in terms of also background, from every part of the world. So it's an amazing place to live. It's also one of the safest cities in the world. It's very walkable. You can walk from one side of DC to the next. It's got an amazing public transportation system. I take it every day, even now as we speak, and it's very easy. It's very convenient, and it's definitely very cheap. As a student here, you also get a reduction in public transportation cost, which makes it very easy for students to move around the city. It's #1 best economy in America, out of all cities. As I said, young graduates here start with double the salary of students around the US. It's a very fit city. Sorry, the lights went off here, so I haven't moved, but I hope you guys can still see me. It's also #4 most influential city in the world, and I think that's a very, very important draw here. It's got tons of parks, and it's built with that in mind. So it's an amazing city. I mean, it's #7 overall safest in the world. It's #4 in digital security in the world. So in terms of jobs you're going to get, it's #7 in health security. It's #10 in infrastructure security in the world, and it's #23 for personal security in the world. And that's huge, right? I mean, this is a big world, and for us to be up in the top 25 safest cities, it's an amazing thing that actually sets a lot of parents' minds at ease, knowing that their kids are going to be in one of the safest cities in the world. In terms of BAU by the numbers, we have a 90% graduation rate. We have a 76% employment rate, 75% retention rate, which is pretty high. And I think the most important thing is we have a 1-to-10 student-teacher ratio. Because of the size of our university and because of the focus that we spend on the education here, we make sure the class size is small. So every student gets personal attention. We have 160 plus graduates and alumni network of 33,000 students. And that's very, very important because, as you know, alumni are a huge source not only of revenue, but also a source of career advice and also career connections to current students. So we work very closely with our alumni network, global alumni network. If you look at our global alumni network, a lot of them, once they graduate from the BAU network of universities, they become leaders of industry, leaders in their home country, which is something that we're very, very proud of. All right. How do we stand out? I spoke a little bit about our Global Policy Institute, and here's a picture of one of our panels that we had here pre-COVID. What do we do during COVID times? We actually continue to provide a lot of webinars. We continue to provide a lot of information through through GPI. Our students participate at least once a week in webinars that involve ambassadors from some of the countries, that involve even not just political situations, but also things that happen here in the US. Some of the protests that are happening here from an international student perspective, you might come in and say, wow, I really am not sure what all of, what's happening here, or if you don't have a history of understanding, some of the cultural divides that here in the US, some of, the issues that are happening from a racial perspective and everything like that. We do have tons of panels here that help answer a lot of those questions and help broaden your perspective as a student and also as a world citizen. You definitely become much more educated about the issues that are happening in the US and around the world. In terms of our academic faculty, we do benefit a lot being here in DC. Some of the largest global institutions are here. US Department of Transportation, USAID, Kodak, Marriott hotel chains is headquartered here. Nestle, the largest food conglomerate in the world, is headquartered here. World Bank is here. IMF, Latin American Bank is headquartered here, which is basically kind of the World Bank for countries from Mexico all the way down to Argentina. So there are tons of resources here for students, but also we get to pull a lot of faculty here from those institutions. So the education that you get is not just strictly academic, it's actually hands-on. I've actually started looking into teaching here. I have 20 years of experience in marketing, and actually not just educational marketing, but global marketing. And I've taught in other places as well. So I get to share with students some of the marketing things that we get to have, that we get to do here, which I think it's awesome. And having been a student myself, I would have loved to have gotten that experience myself. But we do share that here with our students, so it's an amazing educational experience. In terms of internships and work opportunities, there are a lot of internships here. At my staff, in my marketing department here, I have half of my staff that I have employed here are interns. So they do get to see, and when I say interns, I want to make sure that in a lot of places, right, you go and you're an intern, you're making copies. Nobody's actually involving you in execution. Nobody's actually involving you in strategy. The interns that work here with me actually lead, let's say, the social media campaigns. They lead some of the SEO campaigns that happen here. They're involved in meetings with me and with agencies that we work with directly. They're my employees. They're not students. They're my employees from a mental perspective, right? So I think the experience that they get working on campus is truly world class. Is truly a hands-on experience that I would have loved to have gotten as a student in a big university that I went to, both my grad and undergrad in the Midwest, and we are actually providing that here for our students. One of the areas that we're working on is our co-op program, right? So to be able to provide our students with OPT and CPT. One of the interesting things that we're developing, I don't know how many of you are familiar with like a co-working shared space like WeWorks. We are actually developing the same thing here. We've allocated 2 entire floors in our building. We have opened them to various institutions, from business institutions to governmental institutions or non-governmental institutions, to come and actually house their offices here in our building. As part of the requirement to participate here for these institutions, they have to provide at least 2 spaces for our students to take co-op programs in. So that's a requirement here. So our students actually, they just have to take the elevator up to our 7th and 8th floor, and they would actually be there working in the midst of some of the most important global business companies or governmental or non-governmental NGOs here. So I know it says there that it's coming in 1 to 2 years. We're working very hard. We've actually employed a career consultant here in place that her focus is specifically to develop the co-op program, and I'm very confident that we'll be able to finish it within a year. The co-op working space is expected to come online mid-November to end of November. So once that happens, then we'll be onboarding companies here, and we'll be able to start students as soon as possible in the co-op program. This is huge. It's very unique for an academic institution, and it's extremely unique here in DC. So we're proud to be an innovator in that area where we provide career opportunities to students in campus, on our building, to be working with some of the most innovative companies or organizations in the world. One of the benefits of being part of BAU is we are a global network. So if you are a student, say at, I'll just use Harvard as an example, right? And you want to go study in Rome, or you want to go study in Berlin, or you want to go study in Shanghai for that matter, right? You will have to pay a tuition to Harvard, and then you'll have to pay a certain amount of money to the hosting university you're going to. So if you're going to Rome, you'll have to pay money to that university. You don't have to do that here. As a student here, in Washington, D.C., if you want to study in Berlin, if you want to study in Istanbul, if you still want to study in Hong Kong or Vancouver, and again, this map needs to be updated a little bit, but you can see some of the names of our partnership universities, like in Puebla, Mexico, all the way to Tian, China. You don't have to pay that extra fee, right? Once you pay the tuition here, you can go anywhere you want as part of our global network of universities, which is a great perk. All right, I'm going to give the floor to MSM for another poll. So let's see how you guys do this time.
Yeah, so this is our second poll time. I'm launching the poll. So I hope all of you are able to view the polls, because the poll says it's in progress. So I request all of your active participation for the same. The first one is, in order to ensure that our quality parameters are met, I would request you to rate the audio and video quality for this webinar. If you're able to view it and hear us excellent, or it's very good or poor, you can just mention about it. The second question is, what is the IELTS requirement for undergraduate student at Bay Atlantic University? So was it mentioned a 5.0, or was it mentioned a 5.5 or a 6.0 or a 6.5? And the final question is, what is the student to faculty ratio at Bay Atlantic University? So did it mention that it is a 10:1 student to faculty ratio, or is it a 15:1 student to faculty ratio, or 18:1 student to faculty ratio, or was it a 20:1 student to faculty ratio? So these are the three questions. We've got about 41% of them who have voted, more than last time they voted. So I'll just wait for a couple more seconds, 5 more seconds, to ensure that maximum of you are able to vote. We've crossed 50%. Yeah. So with this, I'm going to end. We've nearly reached 60% of the vote. So I'm ending the vote and I'm sharing the results out. So thanks that 63% of the attendees were able to rate our audio and video in the excellent quality. Then we've got 63% of them giving the right answer, that the IELTS requirement for the undergraduate student studying at Bay Atlantic University is a 5.5. And we've got 38% who have given the right answer, that the student to faculty ratio is 10:1 at Bay Atlantic University. So thank you so much for your active participation for this polls. And with this, I would like to hand over back to proceed with the presentation.
Excellent. Thank you, Jim. So let me just close this real quick and get back to the presentation. We have just a few more slides going on, and these are, I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about why study at BAU in DC. I mean, I did go through some of the things, but to recap for you, let me give you a personal story. Before coming here at Bay Atlantic University, I was working as, you know, I was managing the marketing department at another local university here in town, I got to tell you, when I came here at BAU, and again, you know, I was working at a prominent university here in the DC area. When I came here, I was impressed at not just the level of resources that they're putting to that BAU was putting to the education here, but I was impressed with the commitment that this staff has to educating students. And also, I was impressed with the level of involvement of senior leadership directly with students, right? I mean, you know, we're so used to the old school structures of, you know, different layers of management, and then students are just, you know, just some young people that walk up and down campus. That when you come here and you see how involved even the president of the university is directly with the student, it's very impressive, and it's also very, very, very inspiring. And also to be able to work here with the team that I have, as I said, a big part of my team are students that are getting internships here, and to actually see some of the level of hands-on experience that they're able to get here at Bay Atlantic University. It's again, it's inspiring, and I'm very proud to be a member of the team here. We have spent a lot of time and a lot of resources to make sure that this experience is not just an educational experience, but it also is a cultural sharing experience, right? That we want this to be something that you talk to your friends about, something that you call home, and you talk to your parents about, and you talk to your friends back home about. So without much ado, one of the biggest areas is the small class size. We really, as I said, we really focus on an attention to detail. We focus on an attention to each student. Our class size, is an average 15 students per class, and our BAU professors are very well connected to the community. One of the things that having the co-working space here, that we work kind of space here, is that our faculty will also be involved directly with some of the businesses and some of the NGOs that are going to be available here. So not only do they get to sharpen their skills, but they also stay in tune with some of the latest developments that happen in the world today. Our campus is very, very global. It's very, very international. So it doesn't matter what part of the world you're from, you'll find somebody who has similar experiences as you, or who shares a lot that shares your background, right? Our students come from every part of the globe. We've also spent a lot of focus lately on Latin and Central America. So we're diversifying our student body in those areas of the world as well. In terms of things that you can do on campus and outside of campus, we have a lot of clubs out here. You can get involved in music theater, fitness, project management programs. You can get into podcasts. So we do have a lot of extracurricular activities that students can participate in. Here are a few pictures of what kind of like the kind of the student union / meeting room looks like. This is where a lot of the conferences happen through GPI or through BAU Global, and this is where a lot of students can do podcasts and can get developed in a lot of areas. All right, I'm gonna open now the floor to questions. I've seen it pop up, so I know that there's a lot of questions out there. Without further ado, I'm going to let Jim kind of read some of the questions, and we'll answer them directly.
So thank you. We already have a number of really interesting questions that we hope to get to touch on at least a little bit. So
Sure.
The first one, if you could just give a little more insight on Montera College. So what is the admission process if they want to get into the college, and what is the I-20? How would be the I-20 mentioning that? Will it be mentioning about Bay Atlantic University, or what is the process for that?
That's a very good question. So I will actually, so in terms of the Mentora College application process is actually much, much simpler than the BAU process. So you don't necessarily need to submit an essay for our Mentora College, but you definitely have to submit your documentation. You definitely have to submit your application fee, and basically, and that's really, and your transcripts. That's really what's required from Mentora College. You can, as I said, one of the benefits of Mentora is it's a separate institution, so the requirements are not necessarily BAU requirements, right? But once you get admitted to Mentora College, then it's an easier way for you to move directly to BAU. In terms of the I-20, I will confirm on this. My understanding is that I-20 actually comes with Mentora College, but I will confirm with this, and I'm sure we can we can see what we can do on that side. But I will, Jim, I will send you an email after this to confirm the I-20 on the Mentora College side. In terms of classes, the benefit is you can actually take some of the classes. Say you go through the application process, you get your I-20, you go to get a visa, and your visa for some reason is kind of denied, or you don't, it's delayed. You can actually start taking your Mentora classes directly online. And I think that's very beneficial because it saves you from having to come here. It saves you for having to pay room and board and all of the things that go with it, right? So I actually do recommend, personally, do recommend that a lot of students just take their Mentora classes directly from home. Once they get to the application level they need, then they can go ahead and apply directly to, or let us know, and then the Mentora College team will send the information directly to the BAU team, and we all sit in the same floor. We share the same space, so it's not like, it's very different institutions, right? But that's the process. I will also follow up with an email with more details on I-20.
Sure. Thank you so much. The next one is, what are the on-campus jobs that are available for international students?
So on-campus jobs currently, so you would be working directly with various aspects of the academics team, right? So, if you are a business student, you'd be working closely, let's say with me, you'd be working closely with student admissions, you'd be working closely with our career counseling team. So you'd be, working on various things here. If you're in IT, you'd be working very closely with our IT team, right? To basically help with all the IT requirements that a university needs. If you are a student in political science, you'd be working very closely with our either, excuse me, global affairs or our global policy institute team, developing some of the webinars, getting in touch with some of the different research that the Global Policy Institute puts together. As the WeWork space comes online, or BAU Works as we call it, comes online in the next few months, then students would actually be able to get hands-on experience with companies, with organizations of different kinds, from consumer packaged goods to services to companies that deal with governmental affairs, or even governmental and non-governmental organizations. So in terms of careers as an intern, there are a lot of things that are available.
Sure.
Or that will come available in the future. Yes.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. The next question is that it said on the slide that the GRE requirement is 160 for the scholarship to get the grade-based scholarship. So
Yep.
is it the quantitative or the verbal that you're looking for the 160?
So sorry. The question is, was it the quantitative or the
Verbal.
Oh, the verbal? Okay, sorry. Good question. My understanding is it's quantitative, but let me follow up on that one.
Sure. Thank you so much. The next one is, we've got one of our attendees asking from Nigeria that since Nigeria is an English-speaking country, would you require an English score test if their study of medium is English? The first study of medium is English.
So no. If your first study of, if basically kind of like your home language is English, then you wouldn't need a test.
Sure. The next one is with regards to the undergraduate student admissions, is it mandatory that the student has to give a letter of recommendation and the essay?
Yes. So it is mandatory. These are not requirements that we've put in place as a university. These are requirements that are actually put in place by our accreditation body. So in order for us to maintain our accreditation, we have a strict accreditation here. So we have to have those requirements. Again, there are institutions that are accredited by different accrediting bodies that have much more relaxed requirements, and these are I wish we could change them, but they're a requirement by our accreditation body.
Okay. The next one is, does a student require a computing background? That is, in case if a student wants to study the MS in data science, is it mandatory that they would require a computing background? Are students from non-computing background accepted?
Sure. I mean, you don't necessarily have to have a computing background. It helps, right? Like if it helps if you are already proficient in just computing, or if you've kind of familiarized yourself with some of the computer languages out there. But no, you don't. As long as you have a high school transcript, you are ready to get in.
Sure. What are the internship opportunities that students get, especially a little more insight on the CPT, the curricular practical training that students get during their studies?
Um, I mean, a lot of it depends on what you're focused on, right? What your area of focus on. So, for example, I can tell you from people in my team, I have an MBA student here, and the training that she gets is very hands-on business training, right? So she's managing, strategic campaigns. She's working with me directly to develop strategy. She handles directly the work with some big global agencies out here, so she's the one that kind of manages their work. So in terms of the quality of the training that she gets, it's basically, the way I look at it, this is the kind of work that you do when you even looking at my experience, right? Like, I haven't had the opportunity to do these things after I'd been out in the industry for a few years. That my bosses kind of finally said, here you go, you can manage this campaign, or you can devise strategies. So we get to involve our students much more early, which definitely helps build, not only their skills but also um, their confidence in their abilities and what they're able to do here. If you are, let's say, an IT student, you'll be able to work directly with we have an in-house programming team based out of Turkey. So you'll be able to work with them directly to translate, some of the needs that people like us that are not very kind of, programming driven, right? Like people like me, if I have a need to develop something in our application process or add some different information, then you as a student, we're working directly with our programming team to translate what I need into, a programmable language, right? So in terms of the hands-on experience, is very, it's very hands-on, and it's at a level that usually you expect people who have already graduated to take on. I hope that answer helps
Yeah, sure.
clarify.
Thank you so much.
You're very
So I think we've got a good number of questions, and most of them have been answered actually. So really great points. We were able to address few of our questions, but we have all the questions that all the attendees have posed logged in, and we will be responding to those unanswered questions. So we've got our global admissions executive contact details will be shared in the Q&A session. So please get in touch base for all the queries. If anything related to applications, you require any resources, you can get in touch with her. So I would request the final closing lines from your end before we close the webinar.
Sure. I mean, this is thank you for everybody who attended. Thank you for extending me and Bay Atlantic University an invitation. We're very excited to work with MSM. I'm looking forward to a fruitful and a strong partnership together. I think we have tons of available resources to offer here to both students and agents. One of the things that we are working here directly is, as I said, we pride ourselves in the ability to be flexible. We also pride ourselves in the ability to help you succeed at your job. So one of the things, and again, I'll talk to agents now, one of the things that Jim and I are going to be working together in the future is to even develop a special scholarship and incentive system for you guys, so that you also can benefit from this directly. Because I think that's the most important part, right? If you are excited about talking about BAU, if you're excited about bringing students in here, then we're going to be excited about it. We're going to have a great partnership. So please do send Jim any questions you have anytime. I would love to be able to do this as often as I can. I'm also very accessible. So, let me know what questions you have and we'll be able to respond.
Yeah. So thank you so much for this wonderful and insightful presentation. So before we sign off, we at MSM are happy to see that MSM Live Agent eSummit 2020 Live has been informative and a useful resource to all our partner agents, and would request all of you to follow us on our Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube platforms to stay updated on all our upcoming events. You can also visit our updated website, that is www.msquaremedia.com, to get further details. So thank you so much for participating in today's webinar. We hope to see you again next time. So stay home, stay safe. Thank you so much for your time with this webinar.
Thank you.